Thanks, Penny. Good morning. So when Penny asked me to talk to you today about my experiences at the border protesting at the Otay detention center 2 weeks ago, I really wasn't sure. I didn't know what I'd say, and frankly I was, and really I still am a little shaken from the experience. I went down to San Diego and participated in the protests near the border, and I volunteered to be what organizers called a moral witness. The moral witnesses were the 40 of us or so who were willing to participate in a civil disobedience action by protesting on the detention center property with the potential of being arrested. I've never protested this way before, and I was scared not knowing what to expect. I participated in the Women's March in 2017 and 2018, and that Women's March in 2017 was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. So this was really the first time where I really put myself on the line. So why did I do it? Well, it turns out that I'm a snowflake. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by snowflake, Wikipedia defines it this way. Snowflake as a slang term involves the derogatory usage of the word snowflake to refer to a person. Its meaning may include a person perceived by others to have an inflated sense of uniqueness, maybe, or to be overly emotional and easily offended. Common usages include snowflake as a politicized insult. At this point, I'm actually thinking about getting a snowflake tattoo. So why did I do it? I'm a snowflake. And in the last 2 years, there have been so many things that have been hard for me to take. And it turns out that injustice makes me cry. And children separated from their parents, put in prison, sleeping on floors under Mylar blankets, is just too much for me to bear. And you may know that on top of that, Core Civic, that runs the Otay Detention Center and many others, is one of the top 3 for-profit companies that run these prisons. 2 of the top 3 of these companies are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. This is big business and big money, and I'm disgusted by the profit making off of human suffering. So during the training for the moral witnesses that morning, the organizers took a Sharpie and wrote the phone number that I should call should I be arrested and need to be bailed out. It got very real at that moment. Then the larger group that was there to protest blessed us. As I stood up there, I was pulsating with fear and excitement, and I was tearful just thinking about these families and the crimes that were being committed against them. It was a beautiful day in San Diego, and some of our 1,000 or so protesters took one of the big tour buses over, or some drove in small groups, and I drove myself. And as my fear grew, I just kept thinking about these families. As we marched up the hill in the warm, dry air alongside the cement box surrounded by a barbed wire fence that is the detention center, I felt empowered and powerless. We were chanting our slogans, and at one point we were quiet for a moment, and that's when we heard it. The voices from inside the detention center, asking, "Where are you? Where have you gone?" I thought it was children's voices, and it broke my heart. Turns out it was the women's voices we heard. They said, "Where are our children?" And all we could say was, "No estás solo." You are not alone. Maybe you think these people are not truly seeking asylum. Maybe you think they are breaking the law. No matter your stance on the legality of it all, this is a U.S. human rights violation. For the first time, it embarrasses me to be an American. After some speeches, the moral witnesses separated from the rest of the group. We hung a banner over the core civic sign that simply read, "Concentration Camp." The group of 40 locked arms, walked onto the property, and tied baby shoes and keys to the fence. Then we marched to the main gate. We stood there in the heat of the day, singing. There were a few civil confrontations with the guards. A powerful moment came when an African-American pastor admonished the mostly Hispanic and African-American guards working there for supporting the system that imprisoned their parents, grandparents, and ancestors. It was an especially powerful and moving moment. We were told that if we stayed, we would be arrested, all 40 of us. We stood our ground. Then they offered a compromise. They would either have to get a bus from downtown, bring it up, arrest all 40 of us, and the processing would take up to 2 days. Or they could let 30 of us go, arrest 10, and release them later that same day. After a long group discussion, we decided on the latter, thus saving the organizers the dollars it would cost to bail out all 40 of us. It was hard, somewhat demoralizing, and frankly, I felt very guilty for feeling so relieved to be walking away and back to my family. The feeling of heartbreak and guilt are the feelings that have stuck with me, and I'm still processing all of that. We snowflakes tend to hold on to things for a little while, so. My takeaway from this experience is that if you decide to participate in an action like this, educate yourself and be prepared for all outcomes, both physical and emotional. Reach out to others and look for support. I'm a verified introvert, and that's a very hard thing for me to do, and I didn't do it, and I regret it. With all that is happening in our country these days, it's easy to turn dark. For the first time, I am ashamed to be an American. I've been ashamed of my government in the past and their policies at times, but never to actually be ashamed to be an American. My wife Margie and I have recently had very real discussions about leaving our country because of fear, anger, and disgust. But now we are looking at it from a different perspective. All of this ugliness has been hiding in the shadows, underground and out of sight. But now it's all out in the light of day. Now we can see it. It's much easier to fight against something you can see than something that is hidden. Yes, I still feel ashamed to be an American, but I also feel more patriotic than ever. I'm patriotic by going to work to get out the vote. I'm patriotic in the form of loving this country so much that I can't leave it to crumble into a human rights violating, greedy, insecure, hate-filled country. I've got to stay and fight for this country that I know can lead by example with love for humanity, with strength of character, and enough to share. The positive thing about this time in our country is that it's getting housewives like me out to protest, to organize, and to run for office. Thank you.